Hey y'all, it's Care. Happy Halloween. It's October 31st. That means fall's in full swing. October's almost over. For me personally, it's gone by way too fast. I feel like I haven't even watched that many scary movies this year, done any fall things at all. I've just been working and reading. I did read 6 books in October. Some of them were very short, but I'm calling it 6 things. I read 6 things in October. But before I get to ranking those, I want to talk about 2 books that I was trying to finish by the end of the month, but I didn't get around to finishing them completely. First, Friday Black by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah, and my best friend's friend let me borrow this after I was telling him about Ghost Summer and the Afrofuturism and those short stories and how summery it was, and he was like, oh well, this is kind of similar but more like horror vibes instead of just that speculative fiction. And I read the first few stories a few days ago. Haven't gotten around to all of them yet, but this is much gorier and gruesome than I thought it was going to be, and I'm really looking forward to finishing this because I love horror short stories, but I also am really enjoying the writing style so far. I also am currently reading Come Closer by Sarah Gran. I have to admit, I have started this book a few times and couldn't quite get into it. It is fairly short. It's only about 150 pages. At least that's the case on the ebook copy that I have. It's really creepy, and I'm really not sure what to think about it yet, other than I really do think it's serving its purpose in trying to make me feel confused and creeped out. I just hope that the creepy level doesn't turn into a cringe level. You know what I mean? So far, so good with Come Closer. Now let's get into the rankings. Like I said, I read 6 books this month. Really happy with that. I am way behind on my Goodreads goal. I'm not sure if I'm gonna hit 100 books this year. If I do, amazing. If I don't, that's still great because I've been super busy and I've read a ton of good books this year. Let me break down just a few of the little star rating stats for you just really quickly. I had 2 2.5 star reads this month, 2 3-star reads, 1 4-star read, and 1 5-star book that I finished this morning. And not only is it a 5-star, but it is a new all-time favorite. So I'm going to talk about these books in order of the lowest rated from me, not the general public. Just my opinions, of course, as always. Starting with the lowest rated, ending with the 5-star read. So, unfortunately, my least favorite book of October was Dead Girls. Sorry, as I was looking at this, I was like, I have not taken the Target sticker off yet. I know it's gonna make the little sticky circle on the book, but I'll get some Goo Gone later and fix that right up because I really do love this cover. And even though I gave this book 2.5 stars, it is going to be part of a series, and I think it is something that I will continue with, especially because I just love these covers. This is the first one, obviously. I will put the second one up on the screen. It's not out yet. It comes out next year. This is a debut novel. Let me tell you what it's about before I start critiquing it, though. This book is about Louise Lloyd. She lives in Harlem in the 1920s, and years ago, Louise was kidnapped, but she escaped, and she kind of took down her attacker. So now, in the present day, there are some girls, young black girls, who have gone missing. Things like that are happening, and after a run-in that Louise herself has with the police, she ends up having to work with them to try to solve the case. Not just because she has to work with the police, but also because she wants to do this. She kind of is taking it upon herself to go and talk with the families of the girls to figure out what is going on. That's really just a little part of the book, though. As much as I wanted that to be the main focus and the main action here, we are getting a lot of information about Louise herself. I think it was probably an attempt to really endear the readers to Louise, but really, I would have liked her if she could have just been going out solving these crimes and we get little nuggets about her life, especially if this is going to be a series. I feel like we have plenty of time to unpack family drama, friendship things, relationship problems. I feel like we have time for that. And there were a lot of chapters in this book that felt very info dumping. It's New York in the 1920s. Louise has a girlfriend, Rosa Maria, but they're not out, you know, they're together, but it's New York in the 1920s. But it just didn't stop there with all of the backstory for Louise. We really do a deep dive in on her family as they kind of get involved in some of the drama. She has a lot of sisters. She just has family problems going on, and it is not even really interwoven into the story. Every part of this book felt like specific chunks. We would have a mystery chunk, then we would have a Rosa Maria chunk, we'd have family chunk, and then it would just kind of repeat, and it didn't feel very seamless. So again, I'm really hoping that the series is going to pick up in the future, but it was just a little disappointing for me by the time I did finish the book this month. The next book to talk about is also 2.5 stars. It's called You Should Have Left. As we can see, this is a tiny little book. And this book first piqued my interest because when I was going through my House of Leaves downward spiral a few months ago, whenever I read that book earlier this year, after I finished House of Leaves, I was like, I need to read more stuff like this. And I kept seeing this book come up in conversation with House of Leaves in a few different ways. One was, if you liked House of Leaves, you should try this book. Another was, if you want to try House of Leaves, but you're not sure if you're ready to tackle it, perhaps start with You Should Have Left, because the two have like really similar themes and are kind of told in similarly confusing ways. And then the third way that I kept seeing this book come up, which I completely don't agree with at all, even though I didn't enjoy this book, it's just that this book is a complete ripoff of House of Leaves, which personally I can't see it at all. So this book's reputation definitely preceded it before I picked the book up, but I think because all of the opinions that I read about were so all over the board, I didn't go in with any hopes at all. So it's not like my hopes were too high and I was let down. This book was just super, super weird, and I think that it did go over my head. I don't think I appreciated this book at all, except for the very beginning. So this book is about a man who is a screenwriter. He has a wife and he has a son, and we're getting little bits of what he is writing. So we're getting his anxiety of trying to follow up a screenplay that was wildly successful. He's writing a sequel to that first movie that he did, and he is really struggling. That's just a plot device or a trope that I don't get tired of. I love reading about writers' anxiety. It puts me on edge, and especially if we're gonna twist things into being a thriller or a horror book, I feel like there's something about writing anxiety that's already gonna like start keying my nerves up. This book is so incredibly short that I can't tell you too much without giving things away, but when he and his family are in this house, things start going wrong with the family itself, and is the house possibly to blame? I feel like I just made that sound super good, super interesting. I thought it was going to be too, because that's kind of how the book was pitched to me, but really and truly, this book stops in the middle of sentences, in the middle of paragraphs, sometimes without warning. Am I reading a screenplay here? Am I reading something about the house? Is this even really happening? My main complaint, and I don't think this gives too much away, but with some of the more horror elements in the story, I feel like I've been complaining about this a lot recently, but especially in this book, towards the end, I couldn't visualize what was happening on the page, and it was definitely the writing choice. I don't know if the writer just wanted to leave things up to the reader's imagination or not, but for me personally, I don't read much fantasy or like fantastical horror, so I don't really have an imagination for things that aren't described. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna leave it at that, and possibly check this book out if you're interested in it. I mean, it won't take you more than like an hour to get through. This has tiny little pages, and it's only 100 of them, so like you could knock it out in an hour and a half if you are curious about it. Yeah, interesting. I'm not mad that I read it, but it's also difficult for me to recommend. Next, I want to talk about the only audiobook that I listened to this month. I did listen to something called Moon of the Crusted Snow, and it was very interesting. On paper, I thought it was going to be exactly what I was going to be obsessed with. It has everything in a book I could ever want. Isolated-ish setting, we have like a ton of snow going in, and we have people going kind of stir crazy in one setting. I almost call this book post-apocalyptic. It kind of is, I guess, at some point, but I really like that this book actually is just apocalyptic, pre-apocalyptic, and apocalyptic. Like, it's going down, like, while we're reading. The world is basically ending, and society is having to shift to conform to new ways of the world. I think that sounded really dramatic. The book takes place in a northern Anishinaabe community, and things just start going dark. Like, they're losing power, they're losing resources, and when that starts happening, you know, people start turning on each other. So I was really excited to just like dig right in, but actually, I feel bad saying not much happened in the book, because a lot happens, but I feel like it's just more of a quiet, tension building type of book rather than cabin fever, paranoia, murder. It's not really that. It has some of that in it, but that's not what the entire story is. This book is very character driven, and I'm just gonna say it, it's really slow. There are boring parts in this book. I knew that going into it, still thought it was gonna be my thing, and I do appreciate it for what it was, but this book, I've already, like, when I was making my list for the video today, I actually had forgotten that I had read it, like, a little bit. I kind of forgot about this book. That doesn't have anything to do with it being an audiobook. I listened to a ton of audiobooks that I end up loving. This book just wasn't for me personally. If it sounds good and it sounds like it's something you're gonna like, definitely check it out because it is super well written and it felt like a very unique story, but at the end of the day, it is not something that's going to stand out in my mind as one of the best books I read of the year or anything like that. The other 3-star book I read this month, a short little thing, it's called Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. I have a confession to make, or more of an announcement maybe. This is the first Stephen Graham Jones book that I've ever read, and I am currently reading another one of his right now. I really liked this book for what it was. I mentioned this in my last video. I think that I'm trying to do better with rating books for what they are and not comparing everything on the same scale. So for what it was, this book is like a 3-star, possibly 3.5. Really enjoyed it. It's a novella about a group of kids who bring a mannequin to life. So basically this town is just being terrorized now. People are dying and they're being murdered, and it's kind of graphic. Like I was actually really into a lot of the parts of this book, but I don't know, I can't actually tell you why it didn't get like a 4-star from me, because I'm really struggling with reviewing these short books here recently because I'm not going to spoil anything for you. I thought that the twist was very obvious. I'm not telling you anything about the book, but just I feel like I thought that I knew what was going on the whole book, and then when the twist is revealed, I didn't realize that was a twist. I was like, oh, I thought that's just the book that we were all sitting here reading, you know? But I do highly recommend this to you if, one, you like short books and you like novellas. Definitely check this one out. It is creepy and spooky and there's a little bit of gore, but I also recommend this book to you if you love books about little like kid groups of friends. And when I say kid, like these people are in high school, but if you like those young person friend group books like I do, I think that you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of it. Okay, second to last book, we have The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. This is a pen name for Rachel Hawkins, who writes like thrillers and stuff. So this is her hand at romance, and it was fun. It was such a good time. I really did think this was going to be 5 stars. It was a 5-star prediction, just in my own mind. I didn't pen that down anywhere. But it was so much fun. Before I get into the review though, I have to admit, if I had read this book literally any other time of year, if I just read this in March, probably 3 stars. So don't come back for me being like, I don't know about The Ex-Hex. This is gonna sound like weird advice, but if you missed it this October, maybe wait until next October. I know that we still have like a full month of fall before winter gets here and all. I don't know if you're gonna like it as much if it's not Halloween time. The Ex-Hex is about a witch named Vivi, and when she's 19 years old, she has this really brief, not affair, but just like love. She falls in love very briefly with this guy named Reese, who is also a witch, and they break up. Like their little thing only lasts a few months, and she puts a curse on him that's really funny, and now like 9 years later, I think it's 9 years later, he has to come back to her town for some witchy business. And it turns out she like kind of half cursed him. Like she cursed him a little bit, not all the way, but like things are going bad for him, and now the town itself is in trouble and they're trying to figure things out together. It's really funny. I have to mention this part because I actually was crying. Tears were coming out of my eyes, laughing so hard because there's a part in this book where the cat starts talking, kind of like, you know, like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, like the cat Salem. So there's a cat in this book, and all of a sudden the cat starts talking. He's like, treats, 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 and the girl's like, oh my gosh, I always have wanted a cat that could talk, and I know he's gonna be such a stimulating conversationalist. And the cat's literally over here going, treats, 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 food, treats, treats, treats. And it just reminded me of my cat. If like that would be Haruki. If I don't have a cat, okay, I have a cat. I don't have a cat here. Don't ask to see the cat. There's a cat at my parents' house that I grew up with. His name is Haruki. I'll put a picture in. He's like 25 pounds. He's massive. He's like part Maine Coon, part Bengal. He's just like a cat we rescued. Large cat who absolutely hollers in the morning if he doesn't have his food. So I don't know, maybe that's just like, if you're a cat person, you like stuff like that, there are a lot of funny little moments, not just about cats. There's like a lot of funny moments in this book where, yes, I was cringing, but like, it was funny. This was so lighthearted, really steamy. I didn't know that going in. I literally got this book because it reminded me of Bewitched or something on the cover, and I wanted a nice autumnal read for October that wasn't horror, because I've just been reading so many horror books and thriller books. I thought I might want a break, and I did. This did it for me, but like I didn't know this was gonna be like, whoa, romance, you know? Okay, I'm not a romance reviewer. I don't know how else to say it. Okay, it was good, but it was good. 4 stars. Okay, forgive me if I just go on and on about this next one, but this book has single-handedly pulled me out of a reading slump. Like, I was on the side of a cliff and I had a little branch. I was holding on to it and I was reaching up like, please, any book. And I was like pulling books off my shelves like, get me out of this reading slump, please. And then I grabbed, in my dreams, I hold a knife and it ripped me back up onto the top of the mountain. One of my favorite books of the year, definitely in the top 3. I already know I'm overhyping it. So know that I am, but also know you gotta read, like, you gotta read it. You gotta at least try it. I cannot remember the last time that I picked up a book and didn't look at how many pages were in it, didn't count down the pages of a chapter. Like, I am definitely one of those readers who, as soon as I start a new chapter, I flip to see how many pages are in the chapter. This book, I got lost in it. I didn't know what page I was on at any point of the reading experience. Like, I had no idea. I didn't care how long the chapters were. They weren't really short chapters. I mean, I actually have no idea. This never happens to me. I can really only think of 2 other books that I've read this year where I don't even remember actually reading the book itself, and I just remember them as pictures in my mind. That's They Never Learn by Lane Fargo and The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. I do not remember reading the physical book, and I can only remember the book like a movie in my mind. That is the same with In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. I finished this today and I don't remember looking at the pages. That is so rare to me. I guess I mentioned I gave it 5 stars. Okay, let me try to explain what we have going on here. So this is a book about a group of friends. They all meet when they are freshmen at Duquesne University. It takes place in North Carolina. Super expensive and prestigious school. So I'm picturing Gothic college campus, group of misfits. No, I'm sorry. They're not misfits in community, like their own communities, but like it's a group of people that you wouldn't think would fit together, but somehow it's just perfect. And I know that trope can be kind of far-fetched, but for me it was so believable in this group of like why they actually all did get along. So even though we're following like a pretty large cast of characters, like there are at least like 8 to 10 people who you need to be fairly familiar with as they're introduced on throughout the book. Don't pressure yourself if you don't know who everyone is right off the bat, but it's not something you can kind of skate through and be like, oh yeah, so and so. Like, no, each of these characters ends up playing a super important role, which some people can find really tedious. I thought it was really rewarding because I'm one of those readers who puts a lot of effort into trying to understand the characters. Like, I'm trying to solve things with everybody, so I get frustrated sometimes when I'm doing that, and then it ends up like some characters who were introduced at the beginning end up having nothing to do with the story. That's not the case here. Like, people come back into play. So good. So anyway, even though we're following everybody, we're really following Jessica Miller, and things are told from her perspective in the present, where it's been like 10 years and she's going back to Duquesne University for a reunion, for a class reunion. It's going to be the first time in a while that she's seen all of her friends in one place. Some people she's kept up with, some people she hasn't kept up with, and right at the beginning of the book we find out that while they were in college, one of their friends was murdered, like super brutally. You don't know how yet, but one of their friends got murdered, and it's believed that one of the friends in the friend group committed the crime. Juicy. So when I started this book, like going into it, I knew there were going to be 2 different timelines. I knew we were going to get the now of them all being together, reunited in the present at this reunion, and then I knew we were also going to get some perspectives from their college days. But what I didn't anticipate was that past timeline from when they're in college, that is not linear. So we'll get a chapter from now of them first getting to the reunion, and then we'll get a flashback to fall freshman year. Then we'll get a now, and then we might get like, you know, fall, like December freshman year, something like that. And it seems like it's going to be linear, and then as we keep reading, it'll be like a now chapter, and then the next chapter will be February senior year. And you're like, whoa, a lot of time has passed. And you can read that the dynamics have changed between the characters. And then you go back to the present and you know more than you did know. And then when you go back to the past, it'll be like you know, fall, junior year, and you've gone back in time and the dynamics are different and you're trying to figure out, wait, what changed between, you know, Mint and Coop during this time? Or what, you know, you're trying to figure out how these characters are working together, or who's fighting, who's cheating on whom. If you don't like cheating in books, I mean, this isn't like a romance book, but there's just like, there's a lot of questionable relationship things going on in this book. So if you're sensitive to that, you might not like it. I'm not sensitive to that at all, so I was completely enthralled. I thought this book was amazing. So juicy. Like, so juicy, so dramatic, so incredible. Let me think. I have to criticize it just a little bit. Almost every single chapter end is one of those spoon-fed endings. It is a little bit forced, like one of those, oh, I'm gonna leave you at a cliffhanger at the end of the chapter, just to send you back in time or something. Those chapter endings are in this book. Usually I cringe. My mind was telling me to cringe while I was reading, and my body simply wouldn't. I wouldn't listen. I swear, every chapter ending, here's a reenactment. I would finish a chapter. Here's something that doesn't give anything away. It just says, it was enough. The black hole burst and the memories cracked open. I would literally sit there and turn the page and be like, you know, then I'd keep going. Like, that's such a good little ending, right? I didn't mention it, but this is also a debut. This is a debut book. Ashley Winstead, I love you, girl. I'm gonna read anything you write in the future. I'm gonna be first in line. I know this review already went off the rails. I'm just racking my brain to see if there's anything else I can tell you to convince you to read it. I'm just gonna leave you with, like, if you like juicy drama that feels real. Everything in this book felt like petty college drama and petty college revenge. Like, it felt really real to me, especially if you were part of a Greek community in college, if you're in a sorority or fraternity. Hyper recommend, highly recommend. I've been playing Pokemon Go again. I keep getting the hyper potions. Anyway, I don't even remember what I was saying anymore. I'm sure it wasn't even important. Yeah, anyway, I think I made my point. I'm sorry about that. I'm just gonna leave you to it. Go read it if you would like to. I certainly loved it. It's gonna be in the top 5, if not my top 3 of the year. Like, obsessed. Would love to get my hands on like an audiobook once that's created. Like, I haven't even seen an audiobook for it yet. I don't know if it's out yet, but I want to reread this in the future. I love this book. It just really turned kind of a meh reading month into something golden and perfect and beautiful. Okay, I think that's all for today's video. That felt kind of short. I know you're thankful for that. I'm just gonna stop talking, let you get on with your day. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you have a happy Halloween. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.